Welcome to Englewood After Dark, Episode 3, Connections. Englewood After Dark is a serialized horror audio drama, and for the best experience, we recommend starting with Episode 1, Finn's Choice. Content warnings for this episode include discussions of crime scenes and death.
Hey there, intrepid mystery lovers, and welcome back to another episode of Englewood After Dark. I'm your host, Finn Nightingale, a rebellious bad boy with a heart of gold. And with me, as always, is my no-nonsense, by-the-book partner, Eve Pemberley.
Bad boy, name one bad thing you've done in your lifetime.
Well, this one time, Seb sneezed, and I didn't say bless you.
I take it back. You're an absolute monster.
Given we've spent the last 2 episodes talking about a serial killer, am I really at that caliber? What even is your ranking system for this?
From least to greatest, tiers of terrible people are as follows: arsonists, perverts, serial killers, people who talk in movie theaters, and now, you.
Well, at least I'm winning. Anywho, for those of you joining us for the first time, Eve and I have been diving into the sick and twisted happenings of our very own Englewood farm. In our last 2 episodes, we explored the killings of former moral philosophy professor Ludwig Schmidt, and today we're looking into his continued supernatural abductions.
Yes, as Finn has been theorizing, the professor's horny ghost has been killing and or abducting any students that think fooling around at a murder farm is a fun idea.
Oh, come on, Eve. Even you have to admit that the number of unexplained disappearances at our college have been abnormally high over the years.
Well, after doing my own research for this episode, you're both right and wrong. Englewood residents have blown the urban legend out of proportion, claiming anyone who just packs up without saying anything and every young woman who dies must be the latest victim of the curse. But yes, the number of women who go missing on campus is definitely a bit high. Hell, there have even been a few within the last few years. And while Stacey Turner did eventually turn up just fine a few cities over, Lisa Santiago did actually just slip and fall on her morning jog. And I think we can rule out the girl who committed suicide in a locked dorm room? Tara Oxter?
Yeah, definitely.
Worried about you. That's all.
Yeah,
Finn, it's just... God, please. Why would you ever want to be there? Your father will come around.
Will he?
He just doesn't understand why. Honestly, neither do I.
I have to know the truth, Mom.
You think you're going to find the truth there? The only thing on that campus is the ghost of what we lost. Just leave it alone, honey. It's not too late to transfer. Our local college is lovely.
Mom, come on, we've been over this.
Regardless, we'll be digging into some of the most talked about post-Schmitty murder farm disappearances, and sorry to ruin your fun, but most of these so-called unexplained disappearances have perfectly logical explanations.
I do believe I'll be the judge of that, thank you.
I do not consent to that.
Overruled. How did your search for CJ Briggs turn out?
I did get a bit further, I suppose. Actually, I got the publisher to respond to me in more than one sentence this time. But the actual response is odd.
Odd? Odd how?
Dear Miss Pemberley, we here at Walton and Burke Publishing House hope this email finds you well. We admire your continued persistence and dedication. Clearly you are a big fan, and we appreciate your interest in CJ Briggs's work. Unfortunately, Briggs is no longer available for correspondence with his reader base via email or phone. It has been requested that he must not be bothered any longer, and we must respect those wishes. Please do not reply, as any further emails will be ignored. Thank you, Judy Birch, Walton and Sandalwood Publishing.
Right. Totally not passive-aggressive at all.
Well, I have been badgering them for 2 weeks straight now, but regardless of that, did you notice the wording?
No longer available, you mean?
Well, that too, yes, but that can be explained away. If I wrote a true crime novel and had to deal with a bunch of conspiracy theorist nutjobs emailing me questions all the time, I'd cut them off eventually too. But also I'm thrown off by the phrasing. It has been requested. That's a really weird use of passive voice. Not he requested. No, it has been requested.
Maybe? I think you might be reading too much into it.
What, in your tarot card reading last week wasn't?
Laugh all you want now, Eve. You're the one that pulled the tower.
Finn, I'm gonna be really honest, I've already forgotten what that means.
So uncultured. Just, seriously, be careful, okay?
Yeah, I'll keep my eye open for sleazy spectral serial killers. Anyway, that email prompted me to look into him online, and this is even weirder. The guy has no social media accounts. He deleted them shortly after he released the book, which, for a debut non-fiction author, deleting social media is like cutting off an arm.
What if he's just, I don't know, not planning on writing anything else?
If he wasn't going to write another book, why would the publishing house not just tell us he no longer works with them?
Well, I suppose that's something we can dig into for next episode. Hopefully. For now, let's delve back into our main topic. Over the last 2 weeks, we've been discussing the twisted, vile, and possibly demonic activity of one Ludwig Schmidt, murderer of 3 students on campus. Though he was stopped on that fateful day when someone ended his life, we now turn to focus on the aftermath.
Allegedly. We can't make claims like that, Finn. The police ruled it a suicide?
Schmidt counts as someone, doesn't he? Then what I said wasn't a lie. Someone, maybe himself, ended his life, but old Schmitty's body count only grew larger from there. Some say he killed more as a spirit than he has in his life.
Oh, good God, Finn. You did read through the other information we got from the sheriff, right? And all the articles I forwarded you.
But before we get to that, we do have a few more things to discuss. Last week we brought up the possibility of an accomplice. It is true that some of these kidnappings Schmidt pulled off would be extremely difficult to pull off single-handedly, and as our friend Burning Britches mentioned last week, the professor had a small army of loyal followers, no doubt enraptured by his demonic charm.
Or a bunch of entitled teacher's pets, trying to schmooze their way to an A.
No, I think demons are more plausible here.
You're impossible. But yes, I did look into the flies.
And did you find anything good?
Unfortunately, just more dead ends. An accomplice was briefly considered by the police, but seeing as murders and disappearances subsided for a while following Schmidt's death, it wasn't looked into all that closely. There wasn't exactly any hard evidence to suggest it. It was just a theory.
Unfortunately, I couldn't get anything more out of Burning Bridges either. He really doesn't want anyone to know his name, so he felt iffy about giving out any more information.
We'll have to come back to it then. I don't want to drop it just yet. There's something about this that feels right, you know? I can't see Schmidt abducting a violinist in 5 minutes in a public building without some kind of help. In any case, onto the disappearances?
Just about, but first, let's talk about the comments box.
Alright, for those of you who've been following us for a while now, you know we like to do comment shoutouts every now and then. Last episode I answered a comment by Tequila Mockingbird stating that there were ghosts in Sycamore Hall, and at the end of that I offered to debunk any other so-called paranormal activity you've experienced, and apparently that's something you guys really want to see, because good lord, so many comments.
And don't get me wrong, we absolutely love it. Keep them coming. Keep the Twitter and Blue Sky active, but to those classmates sending us private messages to our school email because they want to remain anonymous, don't. As an alternative, we've now installed a comment box outside the theater department. Obviously, we can't get to all your comments, but in return, here's some rapid-fire cynicism from our resident Lady Killjoy.
Greg, that's not footsteps in the night, it's your house settling. Calm down. Louise, if there's green slime coming out of your faucet, call plumber before you call ghost hunters. Henry, your cat isn't pissing all over the house because it's sensing a ghost. You have to litter train it. They don't just do that automatically. And Megan, your girlfriend isn't possessed, she's just mad at you.
That covers everything, right?
Just about, yeah. As a side note, this is the last time I will be offering my supernatural expertise for free. So if you still want to investigate strange happenings going on, our rates are $50 an hour, double if you think we risk possession in any way.
I thought you didn't believe in ghosts.
I don't, but if I can tell people they're wrong and get paid, we'll just call that a bonus.
Right. Well, speaking of capitalism, unless there's anything else, here's a word from our sponsors. Hey there, everyone. I'll get to the ad in just a moment, but you gotta let me be unprofessional and geek out for just 2 seconds. Holy crap, we have an actual sponsor. Like, we just got paid sponsor. Not doing a favor for the school type of sponsor. Not that I don't appreciate Englewood University, but we're like an actual podcast now. Look at this. They sent copy and everything. I mean, I know it's just a local coffee shop, but... right. Well, hey there, Englewood After Dark fans. Need a cozy hangout space for you and the rest of your team of amateur sleuths? A place with good coffee, comfy chairs, and a welcoming atmosphere for both cynics and believers alike? Well, look no further. The Bean Guru offers affordable coffee for all your late-night study sessions, pre-class breakfast runs, and yes, even those tiring weekends delving into the unknown. The Bean Guru is also looking for baristas, so for anyone looking for a part-time job, they're on the southeast end of campus and will be officially opening this Friday. Call 555-0129 for any questions regarding applications or just stop by the store and ask for Kevin. And now Eve can be twice as caffeinated as usual.
The best version of me is the caffeinated version.
Yeah, I remember when caffeinated Eve painted her entire dorm room in one day without consulting Carmen.
I'm productive, what can I say? Let's get into it.
First up is the late Yumi Nakajima. She was only a few weeks into her first semester here when a group of students decided to tangle with old Schmitty's ghost by going to the farm. Somewhere nosy RAs couldn't intrude.
RAs are Finn's mortal enemies, since one found his hamster, Mr. Snuffleupagus, and he had to rehome him.
Fly free, Mr. Snuffleupagus.
What year was this?
This was in the winter of 1995, and the rumors about the farm were still hanging around, but now with an edge of crazy. People had sensationalized the case to a point where it was barely real to them anymore, like a ghost story.
And they went out there looking to get spooked?
Sure did. And they succeeded, too. Had a big bonfire, got wasted, and when they all woke up in the morning, they realized they'd lost Yumi.
Lost? Doesn't sound very ghosty.
Well, search and rescue parties were dispatched into the woods behind campus. They searched for days before they found her. She died of exposure.
That's rough, but it doesn't sound like anyone killed her.
I mean, there is the definite potential that she was possessed by a malevolent entity that frog-marched her into the snow and then left her out there to die.
Or the much more plausible drunk girl goes to pee in the woods and gets completely turned around? A tragic accident.
That is indeed what the papers termed it.
A lackluster first connection there, bud.
Well, they can't all be winners. What do you have?
Unfortunately, I have something much worse, and it also does seem to tie back to the original murders. Right, well, let me introduce you to Amber Reed. She was, by all accounts, well liked. She was the editor-in-chief for our campus newspaper, the Englewood Edition, and she disappeared during her third year of school in 1999. She was also brunette, just like all the other victims.
Blondes really do have more fun. And live longer.
Amber and her friends were at a party in the old back building. According to witness testimonies taken at the time, they separated from the party and headed up to the farm for some privacy.
To bone.
Potentially to bone, yes. Though you can imagine why they didn't say that to the police at the time.
Because they were cowards.
More probably because of embarrassment, I think. That's not important. The important thing is that unlike with Yumi Nakajima, Amber Reed managed to leave the farm without incident. She was pretty drunk and out of it, according to witnesses, but 2 of her classmates walked her home and returned her to her dorm room.
And then the ghost came for her?
That would be what you would say, wouldn't it? Her roommate came home a few hours later, by her estimate, but given that she was also drunk, she was unable to testify as to whether Amber was home before she passed out in her own bed. The only thing she knew for certain is that when she woke up, Amber was not home and her bed didn't appear to have been slept in either.
Dun dun dun.
Exactly. At first, the roommate thought that perhaps Amber had simply gotten lucky and stayed over in someone else's dorm for the night. But then she didn't attend her first period class in the morning, which is very unlike a girl who has scholarships to maintain. The roommate asked around and no one had seen Amber since the night before.
So the ghost got her.
Probably not. Given that she was a low-risk victim, the police were concerned. Her parents were called in and a manhunt began to try and find her. The Englewood edition didn't get a print that week out of respect. There was even a day out from classes.
That joke people make about someone dying in order to miss finals has never seemed in poorer taste.
Yeah. Eventually, with seemingly no evidence and the police suspecting foul play, they called in the dogs. And that's when it got really creepy.
Ghosts, finally?
Amber's body was found in the grounds of the farm, buried in a shallow grave, wearing lipstick that wasn't her own.
Schmidt.
Certainly somebody out there wanted the investigators to think that way, yes. The copycat nature of Amber's death was eerily familiar for our favourite detective, Pew Bevins, especially since the lipstick thing was a lesser-known detail from the previous murders, something they had worked to keep out of the news.
So whoever killed poor Amber was more than a little acquainted with the first murders. Someone, you might say, with intimate knowledge. Someone like our boy Schmitty.
I don't think we should be claiming him as our boy, but yes, Schmidt, or an accomplice.
A demonic accomplice. I mean, what if the demon is out there at the farm trying to possess some poor unfortunate soul to do a Schmidt 2, more fast, more furious?
Thanks, I hate it. And I thought the ghost of Schmitty was killing these people. Now it's the demon again?
Why not both? An unholy union between ghosts and demons.
The world is in dire straits when even ghosts and demons have to unionize.
The world is a capitalist hellscape, even in the afterlife.
On a serious note, can I continue?
Please. We were on the ghost-demon conspiracy?
Right, anyway, Jesus, right. Amber's autopsy revealed that she had been given a large dose of both Rohypnol and LSD shortly before she died.
That's never good.
Yeah, not a normal Friday night cocktail to be sure. Also a departure from Schmitty's murders, given that the girls, as far as they could tell, hadn't been given any narcotics. Of course, with Rohypnol, that's always difficult to tell, because it leaves the bloodstream so quickly.
So she must have been killed really quickly after ingesting it?
Yep, which means that everyone at that party was a suspect. The police interviewed everyone, but the alibis were all rock solid and no one was arrested. The friends who had dropped her off back at her dorm were suspects for about 5 minutes. Turned out one of them was part of a fraternity and the 2 of them went back there immediately after dropping Amber off. A dozen members of the frat confirmed it.
Right, because fraternities never keep each other's secrets for nebulous reasons.
I thought that too, but the other guy, he wasn't a member of the frat. His name was Clive Harden, a kid attending the school who was actually from the local area, worked in the bar on Main Street to afford tuition. You'd think that the frat wouldn't cover for someone who wasn't one of their own, right?
Right. If Clive had committed the murder, the frat would have thrown him under the bus. And if the fraternity member... What was his name?
Daddy's money made sure that his name never reached the papers.
Figures. Well, if Richington Money'sworth had committed the murder, I'm sure either Clive would have ratted him out, or the fraternity would have framed Clive.
You would hope so. Or there was a bribe.
Or a ghost.
Finn, please.
Fine. What about the roommate? She would have had plenty of time to kill Amber, right?
The roommate also had a great alibi. She wasn't at the same party as Amber, she was at a sorority party. And several sober sisters witnessed her walking back to her dorm at about 4 a.m. According to the coroner's report, Amber was already dead at that time. So unless the entire sorority banded together to kill Amber...
Ghosts are becoming more and more likely.
Are they?
Picture this. It's late at night, and you're Schmitty. Or at least, the ghost of Schmitty. You've been trapped out of the farm since your untimely death, unable to feed your murderous desires anymore. Going cold turkey. And then, these students come to you, like the world's most macabre food delivery service. You wander through the party, seeking out the perfect target, and then you see her. Amber. She looks just like your previous victims. And you just can't help yourself. You have to have her.
And the Rohypnol and LSD? Do ghosts need to drug people?
So he possesses some poor, unsuspecting bystander and forces them to do his dark bidding.
You don't think they would have confessed? Or done something? Innocent people don't just kill people and then go on with their lives like nothing happened.
Not if they were already planning to hurt her. The Rohypnol, Eve.
The Rohypnol, Finn?
Schmitty has found his ideal target in Amber, but also stumbled across an ideal victim for possession. Someone who came to the party with their own nefarious intentions. He possesses this boy and, well, the guy never knows what hit him. Maybe he takes things further than he was intending, but he certainly wasn't innocent. So when he realizes what he's done, it doesn't even occur to him that he was possessed, that he was merely a pawn in Schmitty's game.
That's a bit of a reach. I mean, what are the chances of everything lining up like that?
There are no coincidences, Eve.
What are you talking about? In order for you to be correct, there would have to be several coincidental things all conspiring at the same time.
Fate, Eve. Horrible, gruesome fate.
Right. Well, the atmosphere on campus was subdued and scared for a while after Amber's death. The buddy system was adopted for walking around on campus late at night, and they gave girls whistles, the whole 9 yards. This was also around the time when Burning Bridges and co. were really feeding into the rumours online about Schmitty.
And how his demon ghost was out to add new girls to his collection?
That was the narrative they created and perpetuated, yes. It got some traction on campus too. A copy of the Englewood edition that I found in the library was condemning the rumours and asking people to be more sensitive towards Amber's loved ones.
Which is why we here on the podcast only dive into cold cases.
Exactly. The campus was on high alert after Amber's death. People were looking for something, anything to blame. And some bright spark connected Amber back to Yumi and started to theorize that the farm was to blame for everything. Soon, word on campus was that hanging out at the farm was bound to get some poor girl dead. The dean even came out with a statement urging students not to party out there.
And of course, smart young students in our prestigious university heeded the dean's words and this whole thing went away.
Yep, you nailed it. The number of parties held out there doubled, as people seemed to be actually daring something bad to happen.
And then, it did.
The copycat?
Well, it's more like the copycat of a copycat.
Enlighten us all at home.
Katerina Serbic was an art history major in the year 2000. It was the day after she had broken up with her boyfriend. She was looking to blow off steam with her girlfriends. They commiserate with her newly single plight and suggest a party that's happening on campus in the back building. However, when they get there, Kat, as she was known to her friends, sees her ex and freaks out. Suddenly, she's not so sure about the whole party thing.
You ever left a party just because your ex was there?
Yeah, but that's because I'm not a freak of nature who is friends with all their exes.
Not all my exes, but I concede the point.
Her friends don't want her to go home so soon. They're already drunk and they want her to have a good time. and some guy in her class overhears their conundrum, so they decide to have their own party on the farm. Not just because they're kids without a healthy fear for the paranormal, but also because Katarina's ex, Jackson, was super into the whole urban legend thing that was becoming something on campus.
So it was a fuck you to her ex, like, I went to the farm and nothing happened, dipshit.
It would appear so, yeah. At least, that's what her friends said. So the lot of them traipse up to the farm with their drinks and some blankets, and decide to make an evening of it all by bringing along someone's old Ouija board.
But the Ouija board mustn't have worked, or you'd be more excited.
Correct. But I'm also so proud of you for entertaining the possibility that it might have worked for even half a second.
Oh, God.
Too late. No takebacks. One of us. Google gobble.
Calm down, Hans.
All right. So the party at the farm goes about as well as to be expected, except when Katarina went to the bathroom. She just sort of picked a direction and went into the woods, according to her friends. Unfortunately, drunk students are easily distracted, and it was about an hour before anyone noticed that she was missing. Naturally, this freaked everyone out, and they fled back to campus to get help, because in real life, people don't make horror movie decisions twice in one night.
Thankfully.
The police were called, and everyone's favorite detective, Pew Bevins, was back. In a horrible twist of fate, that feels a little like the universe really hates him specifically, he fell right over Katarina's body. At least this time, he didn't toss his cookies. There was, of course, the immediate connection to the farm and all its notoriety, but that was immediately thrown into doubt. For one, Katarina was not found in a shallow grave, more of a muddy hole. She had suffered blunt force trauma to the head and had not been strangled. And there was no sign of foreign lipstick.
So just someone capitalizing on a rumor for their own sick ends.
Well, that's what the police thought, especially given that they found fingerprints this time.
Sloppy.
Exactly. They soon had Helena Spencer in custody, the ex's new girlfriend. Apparently, when the ex had reacted to Katarina's presence and made some lame excuse to go home, she'd snapped. She hadn't planned to hurt Katarina, but they had fought and Helena pushed her. Katarina slipped, and when she didn't get back up, Helena panicked and ran away.
Manslaughter, then. That's rough. It ever freak you out how easily humans can die?
Eve, you referring to humans like that is terrifying.
Human has identified me as non-human. Commencing termination subroutine. Ah, don't throw cookies!
Bad, Robo-Eve. Bad.
So let me guess. The fingerprints matched. It was an open and shut case.
That's one way to look at it.
But not the Finn Nightingale way?
Precisely. Isn't that all too convenient? And it all reinforces my theory about the ghost of Schmitty finding himself a host to do his bidding.
And you think Helena was possessed? Seriously?
I mean, it would make sense. Schmitty, all alone, watching all these students coming into his house. But none of them are desperate enough or crazed enough for him to jump inside of. Then, one night, poor Helena, consumed by her jealousy, walks right into his ghostly arms. And finally, he has another victim to add to his collection.
Then wouldn't he have needed Helena to put lipstick on Katarina too?
What if Helena was an imperfect host? She wasn't a killer, just an angry girl who he could manipulate. So his murder was incomplete, and he'd be jonesing for the next one.
Speaking of which, you guys stick with us through this commercial break, and we'll be right back to talk about our last victim.
Today in our announcements, a brazen act of thievery right here on campus. Or a brazen act of losing things, I guess. One unfortunate and anonymous student has lost their laptop and is pleading for anyone who finds it to return it. Said laptop is described as a black IBM ThinkPad 600 with a Planet Earth sticker to the left of the trackpad. Our student here is desperate for its return and says it contains all of their work information. So, if found, please return. And to our poor laptopless listener, please consider investing in an external hard drive. Or the cloud. That's a thing people do.
I appreciate that you're committed to anonymity now, Finn, but you need to provide a name or a location, at the very least, to return it to. Or ask our audience to bring it to campus lost and found.
I'm sorry, Eve. Our desperate student hasn't given us any contact details.
Do we at least have a number we can return it to?
Well, we've got an email address, which is areads@aol.com. Well, if anyone finds it, please reach out. Alright, let's jump right into where we left off with our fourth disappearance of the night. The mysterious case of Samantha Taylor.
Our fourth death attributed to the ghost of Schmidt is that of Samantha Taylor in 2002. Samantha was an art student, and as far as we know, Samantha never personally set foot on the murder farm in her time here.
But Eve, if Samantha Taylor never set foot on the farm, then why is she attributed to the murder farm?
You're suddenly very energetic, and I don't like that. Do you know something?
Don't you dare ruin my pacing, Eve.
Right. I suppose we can come to whatever nonsense Finn has planned later. So, Samantha Taylor, attributed to the farm because she had a reputation for hanging around one of the back buildings on campus.
That back building is up to something.
Could have been up to something before it got defeated, but I'm getting to that. The back building used to be right next door to Schmidt's farm, which some students have claimed is how Schmidt got her.
Ghosts respect property boundaries, Eve. It's like Ghost Lore 101.
Isn't that vampires? The dreaded back building, aka the old gym, used to be part of campus gymnasium way back when. It fell into disrepair after an earthquake in the 40s. Problem was, it had started leaning a little after the earthquake, specifically leaning towards what was then Schmidt's property. They couldn't demolish the building without taking up the neighbouring property, so they just left it. Of course, this is the noughties and not the asbestos-loving 70s, so they at least had enough sense to cordon off the building and keep people from using it.
And, as we know, students are deeply rational creatures who would never dream of setting foot in a condemned building.
Exactly. That didn't stop people from slipping in over the years, namely one Samantha Taylor. The story goes, in the weeks leading up to Samantha's death, she had been spotted visiting the old gym several times at night, bringing various men with her on each occasion.
Promiscuity? On this good demon-infested campus? We're drifting into horror movie tropes again.
She started acting strangely in that period, more reclusive around most people, but also spending time with certain men. This apparent sexual awakening is said to have angered Schmidt, because apparently ghosts can feel horny energy through walls from the next property over. Finn is oddly quiet, which concerns me greatly, and now he's nodding enthusiastically, which is even worse.
Oh, you haven't seen me at my worst yet. Proceed.
Send help. Records show that a couple of weeks after this baby began, the old gym caught fire in the middle of the night and collapsed when the structural supports gave way. The authorities found Samantha's charred body the next morning, but not that of her tryst for the evening, though some students report seeing a man fleeing from the scene. One student by the name of Sam, surname unknown.
Keep going. We're getting to the good part.
I really don't like how excited you are. You better not spring another one of Finn's occult corners on me out of nowhere. Anyway, I did a little digging over the last week, but it's hard to find details on this. The message board doesn't see activity anymore, and I can't find a reference to any of Samantha's supposed lovers except for the mysterious Sam.
A name that oozes sex appeal and mystique.
I understand that most of the student body who didn't buy the Schmidt's ghost theory blames Sam for starting the fire. Perhaps a romantic candlelit dinner gone awry? Sam was never charged, so the police must have found him innocent even if the student body didn't. And Finn has just dramatically slammed a piece of paper onto the desk. A bill of sales?
Right you are, Eve.
Is this what you were doing when you were too busy to call the authorities?
That's right.
Phenomenal. And what exactly did you uncover, Detective Nightingale?
I talked to Samantha.
Ah, so now we're graduating to Finn's seance corner. Lovely.
Sorry, Eve, but you can't ruin this one for me. I, Detective Nightingale, talked to Samantha Taylor. Or should I say, Samantha West, on the phone.
Explain right now.
I couldn't get contact deals for Samantha's family, so I asked for the details of Samantha's art course, and I managed to find records of a couple of her paintings. This is the proof of purchase from an amateur art sale Samantha once took place in. I have some buddies who are taking art courses, and do you know who is likely to buy art from first-year students? Their friends and family. And because the art sale went through the university, you guessed it, I was able to get the names of 3 people who bought art from Samantha.
Finn, what the fuck?
Anyway, one of those people was her mother, and as far as she knows, Samantha is dead and gone. They had a falling out several months before she disappeared. One of them didn't recognize their name, but the third person? One Nathaniel West, Samantha's childhood sweetheart, and current husband.
Finn, what the fuck? Why did I go through all that other stuff if you knew she was alive?
Drama, Eve! 2 weeks before she disappeared, Nathaniel was in town visiting for work. The two reconnected during that time and would sneak off to the old gym together at night. There weren't several men, it was just one man the entire time. It's such a beautiful story, Eve. Samantha was failing her classes and she had lost her muse, but when Nathaniel was ready to leave and go back home, he asked her to come back with him. She said yes on the spot and ran away with him. They're married and they have 3 kids. Samantha's a professional photographer now.
Finn, do you just talk at people until they surrender their life story to you? What the fuck?
And I have her number right here, because you're a stickler and you'll want to see it yourself.
Okay. Sorry, audience. We're going to have a quick intermission here, and I'm going to talk to our dead woman walking. Really, I can't thank you enough for helping us with this. I know they're painful memories to revisit, but I truly appreciate you clearing things up for us. Yes, you too. Okay, thank you, Mrs. West. Good night. Detective Nightingale, what the fuck?
Oh, please, do congratulate me more.
I stand in awe at your ability to bludgeon your way through social interactions, but I can't argue with your results.
Why do you sound so surprised by that?
You do know what this means, right? You just solved a mystery with logic, and you came to a natural, concrete conclusion.
Of course, Eve. Every demonic house of cards is built on a natural, concrete foundation. Demonic concrete isn't earthquake safe.
So close. You were so close to getting it.
But you know what this means, right? Samantha said she wasn't in the old gym the night it burned down. She also told me that she knew why Sam was in the area. Apparently Sam had a green thumb, and the old gym was where he was planting his bootleg campus garden.
Which means, wait, who burned down the old gym, and more importantly, who was the body if it's not Samantha?
Another victim of Schmidt's deranged, horny spirit, obviously.
And just like that, you're back to your old self. How dare you taunt me with such a promising yet fleeting streak of coherence?
And on that final dramatic note, we are nearing the end of today's episode. But before we leave, Samantha's case got me thinking more about Amber.
The living, unrelated woman's case has convinced you that possession is unlikely? I don't know how you're making this connection, but I tentatively approve.
The fire, Eve. Schmidt could have lit the fire, but only because one section of the roof was overhanging his property. From the sound of it, any non-spiritual foul play happened to Amber at the party, which is outside Schmidt's influence. I don't think Schmidt could have possessed someone to do his nefarious bidding at the party, because the party wasn't on his property.
I suppose that's logically consistent with your ghost-obsessed beliefs, sure.
Which means if someone drugged Amber, it was a non-possessed accomplice. It means it was one of them.
Pray tell, Detective Nightingale, who exactly is this nebulous them you speak of? Is this another...
The flies, Eve.
Oh.
Regardless of whether you believe in the spiritual realm or not, you said yourself that Schmidt seemed to have a cult of personality. A group who might do his spiritual bidding, even without supernatural control. What if the flies were at this party? And what if they were looking for a sacrifice?
And just like that, you've lost me again.
Okay, let me approach from Eve think.
Oh, I'm Eve and I like psychology. Delusional people would do seemingly insane things if their belief is sincere enough, and Schmidt had a cult of
I haven't said
personality.
anything like that.
If Schmidt's cult
Stop
of...
doing that voice and I'll let you finish without interrupting.
If Schmidt's cult of personality had this weird obsession with him, and if they believed in the legend of the farm, wouldn't it stand to reason they might try to interact with him? Like, imagine you're one of the flies. You're hanging out at this party, and you see this cute brunette. You know Schmidt's type, and you see this girl is high out of her mind. You decide to take advantage of the situation. You help escort her home, but instead of taking her back, you bring her to the farm instead, like some kind of sacrifice to attract his attention. You bury her when she passes out, just like all of his old victims, and she dies. Oh! Sacrifice to Schmidt. That could explain what happened to the old gym, too! One of the flies heard about Samantha heading off to the old gym to fool around near Schmidt's farm and planned a sacrifice. But Samantha left for her hometown before they could put their plan into motion. So instead, they abducted some other girl and locked her in the old gym as an offering for Schmidt. Surely Schmidt would have known about the old gym just by the sheer sexual energy coming off it. Wait, no. Schmidt wouldn't be able to reach her since she wasn't on his property. Huh. Maybe the flies got scared and realized that Schmidt couldn't reach her since the old gym wasn't on Schmidt's property, and they panicked and burned the gym down themselves? That would get rid of the evidence. Besides, people would look at Samantha to explain the fire, since she was seen there recently. Either way, I think the flies have been up to something and involved in some of these. They may be the copycat killers we discussed earlier. Killing young women and attributing them to Schmidt's name in some kind of horrifying sacrifice.
Mercifully, we've just about reached the end of this episode, so I'll have to cut you off, Finn.
The truth is out there, and Detective Nightingale will find it.
Yes, Detective Nightingale. Of course, Detective Nightingale. With that said, I think I'm going to look deeper into CJ Briggs for the next episode and apply a little pressure.
And I'm going to apply my special brand of Nightingale blunt force charm as I investigate the flies.
You do that. While I'm skeptical about any kind of occult sacrifices taking place, I'm definitely curious about Schmidt's little cult of personality, too.
Then it's settled. I'll investigate the flies as potential accomplices or copycat killers, and Eve will investigate CJ Briggs to dig up any more insight on what happened surrounding Schmidt's death.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for enduring with us today. We'll be back with you next week with new insight, new research,
And the hottest supernatural goss.
Thank you, Professor Hannessy and the Theatre Department, for letting us use the space once again.
So long,
Farewell.
and remember...
It's not paranoia if someone really is out to get you. God, if only we'd stopped here. I'm so sorry, Finn. You just finished listening to episode 3 of Englewood After Dark, starring Dennis Altman as Finn Nightingale, Hannah Brown as Eve Pemberley, and Alira as Finn's mom. On-air music was provided by the talented Ethan, and opening music by Nicholas Gasparani. Written and sound designed by Hannah Brown, Dennis Altman, and A. Rose. Find out more about Englewood on our website at englewoodafterdark.com.